You cannot use, and there was some misconception about that back then, you can't use CDBG funds anywhere in the city. For very specific areas and some of the most impoverished areas in the city. Those funds can only be used there. So therefore, when we applied for those CDBG funds, some of the projects that were on our list of recommendations and whatnot that could be fixed, were not fixed or part of the proposal because they indeed were going to be funded by those grant monies. And since you adjusted the plan, those roads that were either a complete zero because there was none, or were completely horrid, have already been remedied with monies that couldn't have been used in every neighborhood, and maybe not your neighborhood, only in that specific area. So that also was money that doesn't show up in maintenance, that was part of the projects that were done through funds that we got that were not out of your pocket. Okay. Commissioner Boyd?
Yeah, I would just like to address a little bit the approach that we have as a commission. I fully understand that one can write an agenda for a workshop and say that these are the only things we're going to talk about. But my belief very strongly is when we are going out to our community and asking people to commit to a $40 million expenditure, it is incumbent on us to do everything possible to give as much information as possible. And not to tell people we're only going to consider these things, we're not going to think about anything else, and we're going to constrain our commissioners from asking questions or whatever. I think that is not serving the purpose of helping the city. I particularly think that's important when we recognize that we have already asked this community whether they wanted to spend a lot of money on the roads. And the roads are perhaps a little bit worse now, but they were certainly perceived as bad then. And the word that came back was a 50-50 vote on it. That was a vote in my mind, and in many people's mind, a vote of no confidence. That people said, look, we don't have confidence in what you're doing. And the comments that I've received from a number of people in the community have indicated that, sure, we recognize that it'd be nice to fix the roads, it'd be nice to have better roads. There are varying feelings of whether that's our most urgent problem. And that's normal, that there might be a range of views. But the big issue is it's not just, do you want the roads fixed? Of course, everybody wants the roads fixed. The issue is, do you want the $40 million price tag that we will all have to pay out? And if we're going to sign on and vote in favor of that, we want very clear definition, like Wellington did, of what exactly will be done, what are the design procedures, have we fully considered all possible ways to finance the thing? Is a bond the only way to do it? Are there other ways that we're not considering? Are there other ways that put a different form of burden on the community? So I think, as some of the commissioners sometimes say here, the community deserves a robust discussion of this process, not some sort of narrow interpretation that we're only talking about, which roads we're going to pick and that sort of thing. It's a much bigger issue that affects people. People are looking at right now increasing property values, which means their taxes are going to automatically go up. They're looking at a 1% sales tax, which is going to be a further burden on it. You're asking to load further ad valorem expenses on it. It is fair and reasonable for the community to ask for details. And our job as commissioners is to ask for details as well on their behalf.
Thank you. I think that a couple of things to keep in mind too, if we're going to go back in time, is to remember that we discussed, one of the biggest conversations was the possibility of assessments was another way to fund these projects. And we brought in special groups, organizers, lawyers, I forget what the group was called that came in and talked about it. And basically the way it's mapped out and who benefits from it, the roads interconnecting one another, there's no legal way to really represent it through an assessment without challenge. And we battled that one out too, trying to figure out every which way. Trust me, I've tried to figure out, city manager, a million ways of what about, always trying to come up with, well, what if we, has that been, oh no, that was challenged there and they lost billions of dollars or millions of dollars. So trying to come up with something that works for everybody. Nobody wants to pay more in taxes. I'm sure there's not one person in here that wants to. as we look towards the future on things, I mean, other communities around, we always like to compare ourselves, well, what are they doing? Often these questions get asked from my fellow commissioners, well, what are they doing in Boynton? Or what are they doing in Lantana? Or what are they doing in West Palm? Or what are they doing? They've been doing this for a long time. They've had bond issues they've gone to. I mean, here's a chance for the public to vote on it. I do know that after the end of the last one, the very first commission meeting we had after that bond failed, people came up here and says, now how are you gonna fix my roads? There is no magic pot o' money. Any commissioner up here, I'd love for you to find it, and if there was, we would have already found it. As our, there were so many dysfunctions here in the city. Look, 8 years our employees went without raises. We finally gave them a raise last year, proposing another raise this year. They're finally seeing it because those property values are going up. We're trying to take care of our employees too and bring things back to normal. We're trying to get ourselves to a respectable place, and the roads were sorely neglected. And we could point fingers and go back in time and talk about this and talk about that. That's just no good, because the second you leave here and you go home, you're gonna encounter a pothole or a failing road or a falling apart sidewalk or whatever. And even if the bond issue fails, you're gonna come back that first meeting after that bond issue, if it was to do that, and you're gonna look at me and you're gonna say, so how are you gonna fix my roads? We can watch as the price tag rises. We can watch as that increase from 10% to, what was it? 22%. We can watch those things, but regardless, the roads need to be repaired. And we can argue how and why and what, and we can watch the roads deteriorate anymore. I'm not gonna get emotional about this, I'm not gonna get excited about this. It's a need, it's a necessity, and we have to be grown-ups and we have to decide what we need to do. I wish we could do more. I wish we had a big giant pot of money. I wish I won the $5,000 a week for life from Publishers Clearinghouse so you could pay for it all myself. So nobody has to do anything. I would do it in a heartbeat. It's just one of our responsibilities, and it's not fun, and it's not easy on our wallets and pocketbooks as we go through this. And you'll get a chance to make that choice at the polls, and if you vote against it, we'll go and keep putting more money into maintenance, the more money we get from tax money, and we'll try to nip away at it again some more, but it's not gonna be perfect for a long time. We have to fix the foundation, guys. And then we can go to the maintenance, and we're gonna be in really good shape after that. But we have to fix the foundation, or the house will fall apart. It'll be on Mr. Waters' list of condemned places that needs to be torn down. I'm sorry, but that's where we're at. And we can argue all we want and get in each other's faces and do whatever, but it's not gonna change the fact. The streets have to be fixed, and we have to find, it's our job, our responsibility to put solutions, not to put problems or obstacles or ideas and things that are out there. That's fine. But the streets get fixed a certain way, and we have to fix them. That's our job. Or not. Vice Mayor?
I don't see any more hands on the floor, so if that's the fact the case, that we move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
There's no citizen input?
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Hey?
Motion carries 3-2. Thank you all very much.